Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. And we are here for day two of Datacloud Global Congress in beautiful Cannes, France. And joining me today is Nabil Mahmoud. He is the co founder and board director of Nomad Futurist Foundation. Nabil, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Lovely to be out here, and it was great to cross paths in Philadelphia on the way out here.
Yes, we were travel
Yeah,
buddies
absolutely.
from Philadelphia here to beautiful Cannes here in the French Riviera. No better place to have an event, especially a worldwide leading event like DataCloud Global Congress. So we're here today, day two. Let's talk a little bit more about Nomad Futurist. Obviously, it's gained a strong global presence in advancing education and career development for the next generation in digital infrastructure. What impact are you seeing globally?
Quite a bit. On a positive note, we were here last year. We were trying to expand our reach globally. So now we are in six of the seven continents. That's a massive, massive win. I think it's also become clear to the sector that we've got a significant human capital deficit that needs to be addressed. Roughly about 300,000 jobs need to be fulfilled in the data infrastructure layer by the end of next year. And about 1.6 million by the year end 2030. So massive undertaking. The silver tsunami is there. People are exiting, not because they want to, but they're coming of age, right? So we're seeing significant growth. We had made an announcement and a promise last year or here, as a matter of fact, sitting over here with you,
Yes.
that we were going to be launching the academy, which is real now. We made that announcement early January. The academy is public and free to access as of February. We've got 5 modules up and running. We will be releasing another 5 over the next 30 to 45 days. And we've got about 200 hours worth of course content in there. Besides that, we've also launched a career board and currently are working career pathways, whereby we're looking at other partnerships such as iMasons, OCP, and other organizations globally to incorporate and develop pathways of what the future of the sector is going to look like.
I mean, it's so important because the future is just continuing to grow and grow every day, and there is that talent shortage. So you're filling that gap, and JSA is proud to be also a partner with Nomad Futurist. Me personally, an ambassador.
Absolutely.
So honored to be here, sitting here talking in just 1 year. Such amazing growth for Nomad Futurist, and you're also part of Talent in Tech.
Correct.
Data Cloud's initiative here. So are we. Such a great initiative discussing how sustainable choices support responsible growth. How does Nomad Futures connect social and climate responsibility with talent development?
So I'm a big believer of muscle memory, right? And what I mean by that is you start early, you start by educating, providing exposure and experiences, right? And that results in building that muscle memory. So the core really at the end of it, the way I look at it is education, early on education for the right reasons, not just to do it. And then give people an opportunity to understand why it is important to create a sustainable, scalable environment whereby we can pass it on to the next generation. How are we doing that? So, we've taken the approach of being that connected tissue in working with organizations like JSA or Technera and Data Cloud Congress and others on a global basis, carrying that narrative across every single domain that's possible and educating everybody and trying to unify that voice. So it's one voice, one cause. So let's do it for the right reasons.
Absolutely. And you're holding that microphone there with Greener Data,
Greener
our
data,
initiative
absolutely.
At JSA. So it's so important to continue responsible, sustainable growth in our industry for sure. And AI, of course, we have to mention AI.
Yep.
We're still hearing it at each and every conference over and over again. The AI growth is really impacting our industry. And of course, the next generation as well. From your perspective, how should the next generation prepare to thrive in an AI augmented infrastructure environment?
It really comes down to education. We have gone through the cycle of converting from analog to digital. I clearly remember when I got my first computer and I had the dial-up modem. It was like a time lapse. The world changed in front of us.
Yes.
So with children and the younger generation actually being digital natives, it's muscle memory to them. They were born with it. I mean, they can zip through applications like it's no one's business. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just at their fingertips. To answer your question, it really comes down to educating. A lot of them play with all those apps. They can develop technologies, they can develop platforms, but what's lacking is why are we doing what we're doing? And that comes down to the roots and understanding and educating the basis of it. AI is not our enemy. I just want to clarify that. I think there's a lot of hype that AI is going to take over the world. Well, there's no substitute for human intelligence.
Absolutely.
AI is going to stay, and we're only going to be successful if we stay up with times, and we can only stay up with times if we continually educate ourselves.
Education is key to the future and how we leverage AI
Absolutely.
for sure. And all the work that you're doing with Nomad Futurist is about the education.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just making sure we do it for the right reasons, right? I was actually in a panel yesterday. We talked about sustainability, and a part of the problem that we have is that it's become a checkbox, and not to play it down, but the fact of the matter is that we have not designed platforms and technologies previously considering carbon to be of any substance, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, we'll just build it and we'll figure out later. That attitude, that mindset needs to change. We need to account for EPDs. We need to account for scopes 1, 2, 3, and calculate carbon and any element that there is from ground zero of inception to deployment. And that goes back to muscle memory, right? I mean, and we've got 4.5, 5 decades of data that can be leveraged in understanding what the potential cause is and how do we fix it.
Definitely, yes. Is there anything else that you want to add today?
Well, I would ask everyone here to join the initiative in whatever capacity. All what I ask for is 1%, and that 1% is anything. It doesn't have to be money, right? It can be your experience. You can be that mentor. It can be the tribal knowledge that you've accumulated over your career that share that. Your intellectual property should be shared with the next generation or people that are in transition as we continually expand and grow this sector. So contribute, don't wait. Tomorrow probably will never come. This is your chance. The 1% would result into 100%, and not just talking about the change, but making the change.
Yeah. Well, Nabil, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And if viewers want to learn more about the Nomad Futurist Foundation and how they can give back that 1% or more, tell them where to go.
NomadFuturist.org, and all the social handles are Nomad Futurist.
Nabil, again, thank you so much for joining us. And viewers, thank you again for joining us for another episode of JSA TV from beautiful Cannes, France at Datacloud Global Congress. Happy networking.
for inviting me.
My pleasure. Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are here at Datacloud Global Congress live in Cannes, France. And joining me today is Simon Allen. He is an ambassador for Nomad Futurists. Simon, welcome.
Buffy, well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on here. You know, when JSA TV first started, it was only in the US. It
That's
didn't
right.
cover Europe. When I first met Jamie, I think it was in San Jose. She was covering that. That must be 8 years ago now. So I'm glad to be finally on JSA TV myself, and it's great to be in Europe, and it's nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. Your first time here on JSA TV.
It is.
So, welcome. And yes, as you mentioned, JSA has grown significantly. We are a global PR, marketing, and events firm partnered here with Datacloud for many, many years. And so we're excited to be interviewing you. So let's dive right in. I mean, yesterday was a big launch for the People Behind the Rack survey, officially launched here at Datacloud Global Congress. Why don't you tell viewers a little bit more about the importance of that survey, People Behind the Racks, and what it intends to accomplish for our industry?
Thank you, Buffy. Great intro. Thank you. If you can start by sharing a story.
Please.
For many years, every other Tuesday at 3:30, I had a conference call with the CEO of a big company. I'm not going to give too much away. I don't want to help identify him, but great guy. He's very committed to giving back, and I could see this guy. There's something not quite right. He started wearing the same blue jumper on every conference call, and I could see him picking away at some threads in the jumper, and I could see this hole getting bigger and bigger, and I knew there was something upsetting him. Anyway, sadly, he's not with us anymore. He now lives in Ibiza. He's retired. That's a joke, by the way. But no, back to more serious things. Whenever you look at LinkedIn or the press, you see these stories about new data centers, billions being invested.
Yep.
You see all these computer graphic images of shiny buildings and smiling faces. But nobody talks about the people behind that. There's so many initiatives, including Nomad Futurists, and I'm very proud to be an ambassador.
Same, me too.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There's lots of initiatives and effort about attracting new talent into the industry, and Nomad Futurists do an amazing job. But nobody's talking about the people already in the industry. Every time I look at LinkedIn these days, I see somebody sharing a new job. You double click and you see they've changed jobs every 12 months. That revolving door is spinning now. One big operator has lost 7 VPs since last time I saw you in Washington.
Okay. 7.
7.
It's a big
shocking.
number.
People are under immense stress. The talent crisis is really impacting the people already in the industry, and it's not just revolving door. People are burning out. Talent is being recognised and promoted. There's so much we need to take care of in regards to people already in the industry. And when I was here last year, I met a guy called Mark Schofield, who's a behavioural scientist, and this is what he does. He figures out where the stress points are and can advise on how to fix them. Now, this revolving door is costing the industry billions because you've got to retrain people.
Right.
It slows down supply chains, and supply chains are under immense pressure now. There's geopolitical uncertainty, there's tariffs, there's market volatility, and all this has put more and more stress on the people already in the industry. And it's about time we did something about it. And that's the motivation behind the survey we launched yesterday. It's going to take a snapshot for the first time ever of the people in the industry right now. And it's not just about retaining talent, it's not just about preventing burnout. There are people that working in data centers that can be elevated, they can do more. So it's about recognising that untapped talent as well. The potential for helping the people and the industry is immense, and that's what the survey is about. I launched it on LinkedIn yesterday. Thank you for mentioning it. I think JSA might be helping analyse the data in the future. The results will be published in September. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. Please share the survey. The more data we get, the better. It's about time we took the pulse of the people who are supporting this industry through this growth.
I mean, it sounds like a very important initiative. Obviously, if you just mentioned that 7 VPs have departed from one of a big data center operator, I mean, sounds like there could be a potential problem across the industry. And as you mentioned, we don't want the many talented individuals in our industry to be burned out. So if people want to take this survey, where can they go?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I've posted. I think JSA might be helping promote it in the future. I know my futurists will promote it as well, as are other people. So I'm hoping we're going to make a big impact. It's about time we start taking care of the people we care about.
Very important initiative. And then you mentioned in September the data will all be collected, and then what happens?
Great question. Another great question. Thank you. Well, we say September because the survey will be complete by the end of July.
Okay.
So everybody's on holiday in August. So we'll process results, and we're going to share it. The insights you can get from this data are phenomenal. Can I share a couple of insights with you? A few
Please.
examples. Okay. I've got some notes here. Oh, by the way, if you want to look at the data, if you want to see insights from previous surveys from MindAlpha, again, DM me. It's available.
You can find Simon Allen on LinkedIn, right?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bald guy. One of the very many bald guys. Okay, one story. A younger cohort in one operator showed strong scores in autonomy and proficiency, which is obviously great, but low scores in group identity, so they didn't feel part of the team. That's a warning sign that these young people might be thinking about leaving. They don't feel part of the team. Now, I can imagine a company that's gone to all this trouble to attract new talent and get them on board, train them, and then they leave after 12 months. Horrible. Another colleague, by the way, MindAlpha is already working in data center industry. Arc data centers are just one reference. Another co-location provider, not Arc, discovered that people who've been with the company a long time, for over 10 years, are declining scores in life balance and wellness. So on the surface, they were loyal, good people, but underneath, they were getting they felt demotivated, and again, that's another indication of
Work-life
burnout
balance,
or maybe leaving.
Work-life balance is critical, especially in our industry when it's so fast-paced, moving, and ever-evolving.
You bet.
When you say,
You
yeah.
bet. Can I give you one more story? I'm sorry,
One more.
More than 5
Sure,
minutes.
no problem.
Okay. Oh, it's a good one. A global operator found that engineers had strong individual motivation, but very low organizational satisfaction. This showed up in the data. They had high scores in personal drive and job satisfaction, but weak scores on organizational alignment. These staff were proud of who they worked for and what they did, but they felt they weren't supported by the wider business, and that's a red flag.
Yeah, lots of red flags, as you mentioned, from previous data. So we're looking forward.
And easy to fix as well. These problems are easy to fix.
Yeah.
And what people don't realise is there's a lot of untapped talent as well. People already working for companies. If they want to do more.
More potential
They can help
within.
thrive.
Yeah. So it sounds like People Behind the Racks is a very important movement that you're working with
I think so.
to help improve work-life balance and less burnout across our ever-evolving industry.
I'm very
Thank
grateful
you.
to you and JSA for helping get the message out there.
Yeah,
So please,
thank you so much.
not just take the survey, but please share it.
Yes. And if you're interested in taking the People Behind the Rack survey, please reach out to Simon Allen on LinkedIn. And
And the results will be available in September.
the results will be available in September, and hopefully we'll see an improvement from some of those previous results that you shared with us. And thanks again, Simon, for joining us on JSA TV. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV live from Cannes, France. Beautiful Datacloud Global Congress. Happy networking. Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are live from Cannes, France for Datacloud Global Congress, Day 2. And joining me today is Allison Clemens. She is a partner at ASG. Allison, welcome.
Thanks, Buffy. It's so nice to be here.
Yes, it's an honor to have you here today to talk about one of the most important topics in our industry. I mean, we're hearing about it conference after conference, day after day, and that's the increased convergence between the power and the data center industries. How is ASG helping clients navigate this intersection as energy infrastructure becomes a make or break factor?
Absolutely. It's a really critical question. And in fact, it's why I've come to the data center industry from the power sector to try and figure out ways to educate investors, energy regulators in the US, and market participants on how we're going to get this done. What ASG does to try and bridge that is brings policy, commercial, and technical energy expertise and adds it to its really deep bench of data center development expertise to help clients get to solutions. And so last year, ASG looked at about 500 different opportunities, narrowed it down to just a few dozen based on issues like power availability and access, as well as all of the other components that go into a successful data center development.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing a lot about the power dilemma, alternative power solutions, stranded power. We've heard it all here, and day after day, we continue to hear it. So it sounds like such an important role for you joining the ASG team. You bring experience from FERC into your advisory work. What policy or market design shifts are most urgent to enable more sustainable, scalable infrastructure? The two most important things, right?
Right.
Sustainable and scalable. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit more?
And reliable and affordable.
Of
How do you
course.
do it all?
Yeah.
The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is the U.S. federal regulator for the electricity grid. And I think there are some commercial opportunities and some collaborative opportunities to break through the power constraint. There also are policies that can change and help improve speed to power on a more systematic basis. As we're seeing in the U.S., things like rationalizing the large load interconnections. So having some sort of way to get the speculation out of the line and getting some transparency into that line. We have a saying at ASG, no more fake data centers. So that's one policy. And then the other policy that comes to mind for me is how do we get more out of our existing grid in the U.S. today, right? Big infrastructure like new gas plants, new solar and battery projects, they take a while to develop.
Yeah.
And the urgency to get speed to power is today's problem. And so there are things like hardware and software that you can apply to the existing electricity grid to make it a lot more dynamic and increase the number of data centers that can connect without that waiting for that new, longer infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, speed to power is the key, right,
Yeah.
to all of these projects that we're hearing. And like you mentioned, no more fake data centers. I mean, we're hearing about that too.
Good.
Energy reliability and environmental impact are often seen in tension. How are your clients balancing the sustainability goals with that need for the resilient high capacity power? So that's another big key topic that we're hearing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I think developers are looking at gas as the bridging opportunity. But I think in most cases, they're keeping their eye on the prize, which
Right.
is what is the technology that will take us forward? How can we think about adapting our practices so we can be a more flexible load for just a few hours a year? If you're willing to offer flexibility, you can really take opportunities to get through the interconnection queue faster. So I think the ultimate winner will be that combination of technology that helps to give that resilience and also the flexibility needed to work with the grid and not against the grid.
Yeah, working with the grid, not against the grid. I like that, Allison. Is there anything else you'd like to add today?
I think that's it. It's really, really important issues. I'm glad you're covering them, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Yeah, happy to chat with you too. Where can viewers go if they want to learn more or chat with you get some of this amazing advice that you could offer?
Oh, thanks. Absolutely. ASG-team.com, and you'll see the really impressive roster of partners we have put together.
Yeah. And Allison, thank you again for joining us for another episode of JSA TV from Datacloud Global Congress in Cannes, France. And viewers, thanks for tuning in to another episode. Happy networking.
Cheers.
Scott Willis. I'm the president and CEO of DartPoints, and we are a data center operator. We're actually headquartered in Dallas, Texas, and we've got 11 data center locations throughout the Midwest, Southeast, and South Central region. Yeah. So the key takeaways for the chapter, I was so excited to be able to participate in this project. I mean, first and foremost, sustainability is one of the core values that we have here at DartPoints. So this is not only important to us from a as we evolve as a data center operator, but it's truly important to us as a company. That we contribute as we think about the impacts that our business has on the environment and how we can always look to improve that and be more competitive. But the title of my chapter is really the interconnect domain between finance, sustainability, and innovation. And I was so excited to get that as our title because it really covers the entire ecosystem end to end as it relates to the data center sector and the impacts that the data center sector is having on the environment. And really, the four key takeaways that I would identify in our chapter are really first and foremost is growth that the sector is experiencing. When you think about data demand and you think about where data centers sit in the ecosystem, right? We're at the core of what drives that data demand, not only today, but these enormous future projections, right? The ecosystems that we create in our facilities are really the drivers that enable all that. So that's one, right? How sustainable is that going forward, and what are the impacts on the environment, given just the enormous power demand that our ecosystems create, and particularly when you think about the tailwinds of AI and machine learning type opportunities, that demand only exponentially grows. The second point, really, in our chapter, is really about capital. Right, we're a business that requires an enormous amount of capital to continue to grow. We are a capital-intensive business, and the chapter that we were able to participate in really addresses the impact of capital coming into the industry, the impact of sustainability, and particularly around the new entrants of capital coming into the market and how they want to focus capital being deployed in a very sustainable way. And so we really address that, and I'm excited about the impacts that's having on the industry. The third one is innovation, right? That's what DartPoints is all about. We consider ourselves really to be thought leaders in the industry, right? We want to be perceived as innovators. When you think about sustainability, and I mentioned the power demand in the industry, generally people tend to just kind of think about
Welcome to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakidis of JSA, and joining me today is Tatiana Smith. She is the Associate Director of DERNS. Tatiana, welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
It's a beautiful day here in Cannes, France, on the French Riviera, and we are going to talk about DERNS. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit more about DERNS and what they do?
We are digital innovators, let's say. We are engineering consultancy that works internationally, and we're leading the design development for data centers for our clients. And we work in many countries across Europe, South America, and Asia, making sure that design is most optimized, efficient, and everything is accounted for, and it's cutting edge.
Yeah, I mean, cutting edge design in data centers is so critical, especially with the amount of growth that we're seeing in the industry, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely, because it's so rapidly changing. Technology for the IT, for the servers, come every 6 months to a year. all our clients want to make sure that their IT power is up to date and maximized. So when we build data centers and we design them, the infrastructure lifespan is much longer than IT lifespan. So we are not changing engineering or generators, cooling as fast as the IT load can change. So this year conference was very insightful, and my understanding from the operators that they are looking to change the IT loads almost like annually this from now on. Some operators change IT load 3 to 5 years, but infrastructure change 15 years onwards, like 15, 6, 30, depends on the plant. So the main challenge for engineering is how to make infrastructure adaptable so the client can maximize the IT load without changing the infrastructure much. So the challenge for engineers is making sure the system can be plug and play, so the generators could be scaled, the cooling could be adjusted. So it's all about modular solutions these days. So, and it's modular, everything from transformer down. So every time the change comes, it's really easy for the operators and developers to adapt.
Yeah.
To accommodate new technologies.
Well, it sounds like you have your hands full with
Yeah.
all the changes and evolution in the design space, especially with the industry, as you mentioned, with operators wanting to change their load out every year.
Yeah.
So that seems like that's moving up quicker than anticipated. But you also spoke on a panel, Leading the Digital Revolution and what leadership means in the context of today's rapidly scaling digital infrastructure. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about some of the highlights from that panel and what were some of the key takeaways there?
Well, the panel was very diverse. There was interesting perspectives from strategic advisory and from renewable energy company and from myself as engineering and technologies. So we all brought different perspectives to the discussion. And the obvious one is technical revolution, technical or digital transformation. It's affecting all of us. It's affecting the design we do, but it's also affecting our organizations. So this was one of the highlights. But I think important thing is that even if we keep up with innovating IT solutions and cooling solutions and engineering solutions, we don't forget about people. Because at the end of the day, even if we think that AI will at some point replace like all design process, it's still people who deploying it.
Right.
And I think the most important thing right now is to make sure artificial intelligence and human intelligence are talking to each other, and they're, let's say, friends, or we can marry them efficiently and make sure that it supports each other.
Yeah, I mean, the connection between the people and the AI and our industry is critical to our growth, especially as we continue to move so rapidly with AI and our industry as a whole, right? So one thing that you mentioned, like people are at the heart of our industry and they can't be left behind. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about AI. Of course, we're talking about AI. We're always talking about AI. But AI is reshaping the way data centers are designed, you know, from digital twin and so on and so forth. How is Derns optimizing infrastructure to support AI workloads while maintaining the compliance and the sustainability standards?
Well, the first thing I mentioned is a modular solution. So this is almost mastered at the moment. Obviously, we are on top of things with cooling because we're top specialist on the market for engineering of the mechanical system and cooling solutions. These days, let's say old-fashioned saying location, 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 and commercial real estate still apply to data centers, and it's not a linear. Just be closer to the users, because now AI comes in life in power, and AI brings different parameters into choosing the location. You not necessarily have to be next to the users. Also, renewable energy and the transmission of renewable energy brings another perspective to location, because some operators prefer to be closer to sources of renewable energy. So the location now, the choosing of the site is very much a strategic decision right now, which we as a company helps our clients with. Depends on their strategy, depends on what the loads they're going to deploy in their data centers, wherever they have parallel processes, AI, or they're just doing cloud. So the location and selection of sites is super important. And what we do well at Derns as well, we're adopting digital tools very well. And we're developing our own digital tools that can help clients to make early decisions. Like, for example, recently we started deploying a tool that we designed ourselves, developed that assess total cost of ownership. And it allows clients to see different options for liquid cooling and then the traditional cooling, and then see total cost, capex cost, PU, and then they can decide where they go
Right.
or where they want to be. Yeah.
Are you seeing more operators move towards areas, of course, probably where there's like stranded power and, like in the middle of North Dakota, for example, we know one big developer that just signed a big deal there. But is that what you're seeing, a shift more towards stranded power, renewable power?
I think it's getting more diverse.
Yeah.
If in the past it was all about flap D, and I spoke in the panel a couple of years about it, it was about London, Frankfurt, Amsterdam,
Right.
and you must be there. Then now it's more diverse, definitely, and the different operators have different strategies, as I said, because it depends what they're doing in data centers.
Within the center, yeah.
Yeah, and then the power availability, wherever it's, if they consider nuclear or on-site generation or grid or renewable, become a strategic input into the decision. So the locations are getting diversified. Definitely, there is the tier markets arising, like Madrid and Zurich and so on, but also remote location arising as well, because there are benefits from renewable energy point of view and many others. So it's very much a strategic choice for the team that works on developing data centers.
Right. And you're the one that can help them.
Yes, absolutely. I lead projects. So although my team is engineering, I'm responsible for leading projects, and we normally lead projects in international context where teams from different countries come together. So my role is to make things happen, yes.
And while we're on the topic of AI, what's another way the industry is evolving because of AI, in your opinion?
I think it's very important to acknowledge that our clients changing because of AI, because they have to deploy AI for us to use as the users. But I think we also need to understand that AI and digital tools and whatever happening in digitization and will impact our services as well. So the everything that we do in engineering process, a lot of things could be automated and optimized, and there are a lot of conversation about threat to the jobs because of AI, because everything that has rules or everything that could be repetitive could be now done by AI. And I think it's true for some of engineering processes as well. So we're looking continuously at developing, together with engineers, developing new tools. We're bringing coders and programmers into the team so we can work on those tools to optimize design. But we still very much see that engineers will be still a problem solvers. They will still be creative. They still need to find solutions. Yes, it will shift. The value proposition and how we deliver impact will change, but I think AI will strengthen that definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely here to help us move the industry forward for sure. Is there anything else you want to add and let viewers know where they can go if they want to learn more about your company?
Yes, you can come to our website. It's www.derns.com. We are in all countries in Europe and other countries, so do find us.
Please do. It sounds like that you're changing the world of data center design. We're so happy to have you, Tatiana, here on JSA TV. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV from Datacloud Global Congress in Cannes, France.
Thank you.
Happy networking.
Hello, my name is Sophia Gump, and I work for Nova Data Centers as their environmental SME. So I did not graduate with the intention of going directly into the digital infrastructure industry. I think it rather found me instead. But I knew from the get-go that I always wanted to be in an industry that is future-oriented and growing rather than at a standstill or a decline. I also think that the digital infrastructure industry stems from the bigger picture of the technology industry, which has always rather been male dominated. And so I really have a goal of hoping my presence in this industry allows and inspires younger generations to continue in my footsteps and know that they belong here. So I would say that the most important aspect would be to advocate for yourself. I think a lot of women have a tendency to undermine themselves, especially early on in their career. And I would say that it's significantly important to do the opposite and to speak your voice and share your opinion and your knowledge. This industry specifically is moving really fast, and it's technical, it's high stakes, and it's evolving constantly. And to thrive here, you have to be confident in your work. Surreal, just because this industry is completely exploding, and it seems like it is just expanding at a rapid pace. And
hi, I'm Ricky Wells. I work for T5 Data Centers in business development. Earlier in my career, I was really just attracted to technology, and that led me to the telecom space, which gave me some exposure to data centers. Over time, you witness the evolution of technology and see that its impact and the role that data centers play in that larger picture. And I just found that really interesting and decided to focus my time and energy on data centers alone. And that's taken me to diverse roles, and certainly has been a journey to balance a career and a family is always a juggling act, whether you're male or female. So finding the right roles and organizations that are supportive of kind of who you are in and outside the workplace, that's certainly been a challenge. And I've had a mix of positive and negative experiences like everyone else. Overall, though, I love what I do. I find the industry a really fun place to be and really value the relationships that I've made along the way. So I'd say three things. Number one, stay curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Learn everything that you need to be successful in your role, and then learn as much as possible about everyone else's roles in the broader ecosystem along the way. Number two, I'd say build relationships, not only with your coworkers, but with as many people in the industry as possible. There are amazing people everywhere. Number three, be adaptable. The change is constant, and you've got to stay flexible and willing to learn new things. It's fascinating with the rise of new technologies, and then you've got the constraints in many areas, whether it be people, power. I just think it's fascinating to see everybody coming together and trying to sort these things out. It used to be where nobody knew what data centers were, and we really just kind of kept off the radar, and now it's mainstream. I mean, I see news articles every day, and before that just didn't exist. So it's just a really interesting time to be here.
My name is Regina Lopez. I'm VP of Finance at Kio Data Centers. At the beginning, it was merely luck. My background is in real estate. Although I had seen data centers before, I was never really involved in the industry. However, when I first got into Kio, I started learning a lot about the industry. And right now, I wouldn't think of myself anywhere else, to be honest. It's super exciting. It's a growing industry, and I think it's the equivalent of being in the big .com boom in the early 2000s. I would advise women to not be scared. It is still a male-dominant industry, pretty much like a lot of the tech industry in general. But data center, especially the operations teams, are usually mostly male. So yeah, I would advise women to not feel challenged or scared or anything due to that. In the end, and especially in my case, coming from finance, there's a lot of things that involve this industry. So women can actually bring in a lot to the table. I do think that we still have to ask for a seat sometimes, but I think it is a booming industry and the growth would attract more and more women coming in. So just jump in. It's super exciting. Transformative. Definitely transformative would be the word. Especially now with AI, the industry is evolving very, very fast. We know we need technical growth in order to deliver all the AI needs. And digital infrastructure is now basic infrastructure. So I'm not saying
Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are live from Datacloud Global Congress in beautiful, sunny Cannes, France, for day 2 of this amazing show. And joining me today is Tom Glover. He is the head of data center transactions for EMEA region for JLL. Welcome.
Thank you, Buffy. Nice to be here.
Yes, it's an honor to have you here today. So let's just start with a broad question to kick it off. What's one theme or trend that's dominated the conversations about the market this year?
Wow. I mean, good question to kick it off with, but is there really just one theme? You've asked that question. So the one thing that I would focus in on is artificial intelligence. It's the hot topic, has been for the last couple of years now. But I'm going to tie a few other threads to that statement.
Please do.
I'm going to tie in talent as well. And probably first off, I'm going to kick into the idea of design and the importance of design for AI. So AI is the technological evolution of something that's been going on for 20 plus years. You've got, and what's enabled it to become sort of mainstream is the improvement in chip performances, significant improvements in chip performances that enable those very complicated training models to be generated in a faster time frame than taking years potentially. So you've got the chips that are quite power hungry, require a lot of cooling in the data center, AI sucking up all of that power to build these training models. And then you've got NVIDIA, who are the main producer, 80+% of the market share for chip production and delivery, that these AI models are dependent on. And they're making improvements to their products. Improvements that are taking their latest GB or H100 chip all the way up to, in the next 3 years, to using 650 kilowatts of power per chipset. So in each rack, 120 kilowatts of cooling and design is a lot. Big engineering challenge. Dealing with 650 kilowatts is a huge challenge. And I think that factor, if anything, 2024 was a very, very rapid year of growth for the sector. Every year's been big in growth. But 2025, we have seen a little bit of a pause, slowdown in the deployment of new data centers. And I it's a personal view now, but I believe that is driven in part, if not significantly in part, by this requirement that the design of the future data center needs to adapt to enable 650 kilowatts, maybe even more, in the future of power consumption and heat generation in the same amount of space. And that takes time. It is a quantum leap. So AI, design, and I mentioned talent as well. I'll just touch a little bit on that.
Please do. It's a very important topic.
Our sector is underwhelmed by talent, quite frankly. We do not have enough resource to continue the growth that we're experiencing. Within JLL, we've got a number of programs to address that. And my point here to anybody listening is we should all be doing something to try and encourage more talent into the industry to support the AI and the cloud growth of the major market makers' businesses. We've got a LEAP program that looks at enabling new talent into the data center market that we run. We've got Meta program with Meta in collaboration with JLL that looks at bringing new talent into the industry. On a personal level, when we started the data center practice across EMEA 5 years ago now, within 6 months, I brought in 2 graduates into our team. These are graduates that go through a rotational structure within JLL, doing different disciplines. Nobody had ever done the data center discipline. Today, fast forward 5 years, within my team across EMEA, we've got 4 employees within that team. They're not even 4 team members that went through the graduate program, did different disciplines, including data centers, and loved the data center space. Once people see the data center space, they get excited by it.
Exactly, because it's always growing, always evolving.
Always.
There's always a challenge.
And it's interesting. It's never the same job. So when we show people, young and old, what data centers are about, and we give them just that little bit of a taster through a graduate program, through some training initiatives, they see it and I want to be a part of that. I didn't get into data centers intentionally. 17 years ago, I was in the software industry, and I just got lucky. Somebody said to me, a CEO of a company, "Do you want to join us?" And I said, "What is it? Data center? I don't know." Just join us. Trust me. It's going to be growing.
And now here we are today, where the data centers are literally transforming the world as we know it.
Our digital economy is absolutely dependent, and it's not just a country; it's a global economy.
Global, definitely. Well, I think you talked a little bit about the overview of the market, especially the EMEA data center market. We're here in 2025, believe it or not, halfway through. We're in June of 2025. The momentum that we saw in 2024, you talked a little bit about, you're seeing a little bit of a slowdown there. Do you want to give a little bit more details on that?
Elaborate a little bit on
yes,
that.
Please.
So when I say a slowdown, I do not mean inactivity.
Well, definitely not.
The activity is... It's
Buzzing.
Increasing still. That accelerator is down to the floor, and we have never been this busy in our life in the industry. So it's not that the industry's slowing down. It's just that decisions are taking a little bit longer. People are reviewing the process. When you talk about designs, you've got to get it as right as you possibly can before you invest $3, $4, $5 billion into that next piece of land that you just acquired to build your next hyperscale gigasite or whatever it's going to be. You get that wrong, you can be sinking that money into the ground and it being useful for the next 3 years, but then the Rubin Ultra chip comes out, 650 kilowatts, and your design can't use it. Where's the sense in that?
Yeah.
So it's not a slowdown. I think it's people looking at what they're doing, thinking that it's not future-proofed enough. I'd do the same.
Yeah, future-proof is key to
Absolutely.
the success of anything, but especially in our industry, because the change is so fast, it's so rapid, right? They're saying that what they used to change out every 3 years, they're changing out every year now. So these designs have to be adaptable.
And the costs of those
flexible,
new chips
scalable.
have gone up.
Right.
It's not like you're paying £3,000 a chip, you're paying $60,000, you're paying $100,000. So the cost implications of making the wrong decision are far more great.
Definitely. So you think they're just being a little more strategic in their decisions and not jumping head first?
Yes. In short, yes.
Yeah.
And they're trying to look at what's coming through. And one of the topics we won't talk in detail about, but quantum computing, let's just put it out there as...
That's next.
That's the next thing.
Yeah, it's coming.
They know about the 650 kilowatt Rubin chips, but what's quantum compute going to do to the data center?
Right. We have to be ready for that.
We need to be thinking about it now. So that we can be ready for it. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the rising rental rates, they're heightened, right? And due to these supply constraints that we're hearing about, how do you see tenant landlord dynamics evolving across EMEA specifically? And what role does sector specific expertise play in navigating these negotiations?
Two separate questions, but they're very much aligned.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
interact. So rental rates, yes. After COVID, infrastructure costs started going up. The price of steel. Take a simple thing; it doubled in price. Timelines extended out for delivery of critical infrastructure that is required for a data center operation. As a result, the operator, the developer, their cost base has gone up. And yes, there has been a 13-14% increase in the rental rates for capacity in data centers. So the statement I broadly agree with. There is actually a positive spin on it, though. What I've also seen in that dynamic between operator and market maker, I don't call the hyperscalers. Their business is software, it's services. That's their, who is their end customer? It's you, it's me, it's our corporations. They are the market makers, though, for our industry. And what I've seen is that there's more transparency coming out. So costs have been going up. The operators and their investors want to keep their margins as similar as they were previously. And one of the ways, in a positive way, I've seen that being enabled is by more transparency, by more open communication, by sharing the data points that historically would have been, quite frankly, in negotiation terms, kept hidden.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you my cost base. I'm not explaining to you what it's costing me to build this facility. My cost is 100 euros per kilowatt, whatever the number was. But now it's nudged up, let's say, to 115 or wherever. The explanation behind that increase by 15% is being shared. That's a good thing because it then triggers better negotiations. And one of the things I do like seeing in the industry is negotiating from an open book type of approach. Not everybody's doing it yet. There's a number of companies now where the operator and their investor are open to that discussion with their customer, whoever it is, at a significant scale, to say, here's our costings, here's our expectations on returns, work with us on it. And yeah, there's always a bit of tweaking, but so transparency would be the positive spin on it all.
Transparency sounds like the key.
Communication.
Yeah.
You talk to somebody, collaborate with somebody, you're going to get a better result. And ultimately, everybody is interested in that better result.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to touch base on when it comes to that sector-specific expertise?
Yeah, I'm going to be selfish here. I'm going to talk about JLL because that's my bag of tricks. Where we're in a privileged position in JLL, and we believe this, we behave in this way. Unlike being just, I've worked for an operator. I worked at Interaction under David Ruberg years ago. I've worked on the M&A, working in the capital market space. I've worked in real estate for 8 years now. And one of my experiences of the real estate space at JLL is that we touch so many different parts of that value chain creation within the data center industry, from market intelligence and advisory and consultancy, all the way through to running data centers and operating them, and everything in between that, buying, selling land, buying, selling companies. So we get all these different lenses that we look at the same industry through. That is a privileged position. What that enables in our conversations with our clients, ultimately, and as experts, is to be able to bring those different perspectives to their often singular lens view of the world. So pulling in, joining lots of dots up that can then give them good advice and help inform the strategy, help inform what they do next, how they do it next, their design ideas as a sounding board. We will never tell people that we know exactly what to be doing, but sector expertise from JLL is a broad brush with some real deep domain understanding that brings value to most conversations.
Definitely. I mean, in today's evolving landscape, I think having that sector expertise, plays the most critical role of all.
And it's not just from a real estate point of view. I worked for an operator. I've got a guy in the team that he's just moving to Dubai, who ran all of IBM's data centers. We've got somebody that operated around Telehouse's data centers in Docklands. We've got people that are actually worked at the coalface of what this means, and that you put that alongside real estate domain expertise that JLL has got coming.
Yeah, there's no comparison.
It's an interesting combination.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's much needed in our space as we continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
In the EMEA region, and JLL is global, so
everywhere,
no matter where you are,
we're there.
JLL is there. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on
Nothing.
an amazing episode of JSA TV here with JLL, one of the biggest in the industry. We're so honored to talk to you today. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV from Datacloud, Global Congress in Cannes, France. Happy networking. JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are live at Datacloud Global Congress on the French Riviera. Beautiful Cannes. No better place like it.
Just when you thought PTC was like top shelf, and then all of a sudden this comes in, man, this is
I mean,
top.
We definitely still love our friends over at PTC and can't wait. We're actually
Indeed.
counting down to PTC.
I love
The
it.
countdown is on. We're 6 months away now.
I'm still riding the energy from the last one, and then we come here and it's wow, a double whammy. This is great.
Let me give you a formal introduction. Joining me today, we have Mark Gusakov. Right?
Said it better than me.
He is the Chief Commercial Officer at the International Data Center Authority. Welcome back to JSA TV.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's an honor to always have you each and every show, Mark. So thank you again for joining us. You know, power is one of the key topics here at this conference, at PTC, just about every conference across our industry. And, you know, power sourcing is top of mind for operators globally. We're seeing it here. We have a global audience on this floor today at all the panel sessions. What role do you see nuclear and other stable baseload options playing in long-term energy strategies for the data center industry? I mean, we're talking about it every day.
We are talking about it every day. I'm going to be on a panel at 12:25 talking about what the power considerations are like here. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of differentiators globally. So it's one thing in North America to have one way of looking at things, but even here in Europe, it's a completely different story. So it's a very geographical position that we're looking at right now. You know, at IDCA, when we're working with other countries and nations and trying to put a real power consideration into effect, we want to make sure that we're looking at the right geography for the right place. So I've been really fortunate and honored to work with folks like Brian Smith at Idaho National Labs, where we're looking at how we're going to deploy nuclear power at scale over the next several years. It's not enough to just hear people talking, oh yeah, we're going to have a deployment in 2 or 3 years,
Right.
which really hasn't been happening. We've been hearing that for 8 years. But what we need to do is understand how we can get power to the industry. And what that screams is really bridging. How are we going to bridge to get to nuclear over the next several years? And in the States, natural gas is really a front runner right now. You've got great people doing great things. Oklo's talking about how they're bridging. Jenbacher's got their on-prem natural gas power gen. So with companies like this that are the front runners in innovation, they're the ones that I'm kind of gravitating with and towards to look for solutions and answers for how we're going to provide. In other countries in Asia Pacific, solar is a great resource. You know, and where I live in Buffalo, New York, it's cloudy all the time. Winter's doom and gloom. We don't get 12 hours of direct overhead sunlight, but in Indonesia, 12 hours of direct overhead sunlight every day is a great resource to be able to provide renewable energy in solar and other conditions. So it's a real geographical position that we're in. We've got to start thinking about it locally.
Yeah, I mean, they say location, location, location.
Yeah.
It does dictate the power.
That's right.
Yeah.
And used to be, you know, if you build it, they will come. Now everybody's building these populated data centers that already have the clients in. But how often are we hearing, well, you can build a data center, but you have to bring your own power with it? With that comes its own inherent challenges. We've got to be on top of regulations. We've got to be on top of siting requirements. And then who's going to pay for the thing as well? As you know, I don't like to talk about the problems. I like to talk about solutions. So working with DOE, working with DOD, working with Idaho National Labs, that's kind of the path I've chosen to create the solutions for the industry.
Yeah, and it's so important. I mean, power is the key. Time to power, speed to power. Getting that power, and globally it's more and more of a challenge. So what you're doing is very important, and operational excellence is core to IDCA's mission. What best practices are you seeing among top performing facilities, especially as demands for uptime and sustainability, increase?
Boy, you're hitting on a lot of really cool buzzwords that I love hearing. So thanks for the gentle plug on that. I'm seeing across the industry nationally, we're not just looking at digital infrastructure anymore. It's really all about the global digital economy. And when you think about what the next form of currency is, it's data. You know, gold has kind of come and gone. We're past that. Now data is really the currency that we're using to drive. Human capital is certainly part of that IP, so getting the right people trained and the right approaches, the work we're doing at Nomad Futurist as well, and the things that we're doing to bring the next round of emerging talent in is very important in that front.
It's critical, actually.
Critical.
Yeah.
With a workforce deficit approaching 330,000 by 2030, we're going to need to be on top of this. But the things that I'm seeing that are very different than they were a few years ago, all of the people that I'm working with at IDCA that want professional services and want to be a certified entity, they're not just looking at, are we resilient, are we redundant, and are we operationally stable? It's a lot more than that. It's more about how do those pieces play together. If you're concurrently maintainable in your condition, but your PUE is 1.8, that is not good enough. That is not acceptable anymore.
No.
And how does that affect your sustainability initiative? And how does that affect your growth and scalability? At IDCA, we look at all these elements across 7 different layers of efficacy so that we can analyze and assess how people are operationally excellent and have certain criteria for allowable areas of risk. Because everybody's not going to be completely perfect, but certainly if you're Los Alamos National Laboratories and you're making anthrax versus a Bitcoin miner, you can have differentiating layers of allowable areas of risk. And those are the things that I'm seeing right now across the industry, that people are asking for assessment on allowable area of risk. That's the new advent. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, that is definitely where we're headed. I mean, especially when you mentioned human capital and all these things that are so important to keeping the industry moving forward and keeping that operational excellence paramount. So, with next gen infrastructure on the rise, how is IDCA supporting workforce development to ensure the talent pipeline, as we keep talking about, keeps pace with the advantages of, I'm going to say it, the A word, AI, automation, and renewable integrations?
AI is still a bit of a mystery, despite the fact that it's been around for years. Everybody's talking about it like it's been here. I mean, 10 years ago, I was doing artificial intelligence deployment in manufacturing and real-time machine learning and visualization. Now we're taking the data, we're aggregating it, and we're learning what to do with it. So I think that's something new that we're understanding and learning how to manipulate the data.
Right.
But from an operation perspective on the human capital side, IDCA is really teaching everyone to speak the same language and come to a common place. There's a lot of training out there that people can go through that are predicated on professional services. We really look at data center infrastructure specialists as the starting point. So our DCIS program gets people into an entry program where people are all speaking the same language. Okay. My favorite part about this part of the program is it's the starting point that everybody must go through, but we're finding accountants, people in HR, engineers, maintenance, facilities folks, front office folks, sales CEOs. All of these people can start off at the base level so they understand what the language is that everyone else in the industry is speaking. And not to name drop, but I was talking to Gary Connolly this morning. He said a great thing about communication. He's renaming PUE. He's no longer just calling it what PUE is, but it's all of us about speaking the same language and everybody understanding and speaking from the same place. Let's get rid of some of the acronyms. And if you're not going to train people what the acronyms are and take the time to stop and explain it to them, no one's going to understand this. So we're really walking people through 2 different paths. We're walking people through a path of operations and a path of engineering. Now, at some point, those 2 paths converge and they meet, and you get into management, and then eventually get into supervisory. And then you get into multiple site supervisory and management. And then ultimately you can become a trainer. So we're looking at training the entire globe in the way that we understand and know how to certify people, our best asset right now in the industry, but how we can get people together speaking the same language and all pulling together in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's important. People do speak the same language, especially like you mentioned, all the different acronyms right now. So, some acronyms have multiple meanings, and it is so confusing. I love it.
Gary's analogy was please use English, I think was what he said.
I love it. Please use English.
Please use English was what he
renaming
said.
the PUE.
Yeah.
And supporting the next generation of infrastructure, human capital is critically important.
Indeed.
I love everything that you're doing. Is there anything else you want to add today? I mean, our work with Nomad Futurists as a partner, as ambassadors, are helping to solve some of that talent gap here in our industry, because as we continue to grow, we need more people.
Absolutely. I'm so honored to be a part of this.
Me too.
Be the Chief Certification Officer for International Data Center Authority, where we are partnered with the iMasons on the scholarship program that they have, and working with them to get people through training, as well as Nomad Futurist, where we are demystifying digital infrastructure for emerging talent, have a job board. Human capital is our IP. We're working with people to put them through the process. Boy, am I blessed to be as busy as I am. One day I'll take a nap. Maybe I'll take a nap when I'm dead. But
We'll take a nap on the plane home. And while
try
we're
hard.
here in Cannes, let's enjoy it. And where can viewers go, Mark, if they'd like to learn more about your organization
Absolutely.
and or Nomad Futurists?
Absolutely. So International Data Center Authorities, www.idc-a.org, and Nomad Futurist, www.nomadfuturist.org.
Mark, always such a pleasure
Great
to
to
speak
see
to you
I
here
love these.
on JSA
You do
TV.
such a great job.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, especially here in Cannes for the biggest and best Datacloud Global Congress, the 20th anniversary. Congratulations to our friends and partners at Datacloud
Here, here.
Global. And viewers, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV from Cannes, France. Happy networking.
See you next time.
Pete Empey, U.S. Army Corporal. I was a microwave communications specialist in the military, and it really gave me the foundation to work in the telecom industry, dealing with infrastructure. Certainly would not be here without the start in the military. The future of digital infrastructure is it's increasing at an amazing rate, and I see that it will continue. And to have the experience that the veterans have of working on it real time in the military, and the military itself helping the civilians navigate through what's coming in the future is extremely valuable.
My name is Scott Robert DeWeese. I'm a former Army captain in the Air Defense Artillery. Well, one thing that the military teaches its members is how to make decisions. And regardless of what area or arena that you get into, whether it be telecommunications or some other technical field, military folks bring a lot of leadership and the ability to make decisions to any organization that they join. Well, I think that military veterans and military folks in general play a big part in shaping all of America's future, but in particular in our space here in telecommunications and the digital space. There are so many good veterans out there that are branched in the Signal Corps, military intelligence, air defense artillery like I was. It's a highly technical, skilled branch that's coupled with the ability to make decisions, the ability to lead in some of those formal training events and training systems that enable them to not only be technically proficient, but also to lead in an organization.
Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan LaPolice, CE2, United States Navy Seabees. My military background has significantly shaped how I approach the high stakes, complex environment of digital infrastructure. In the military, I learned the importance of discipline, situational awareness, and precise planning, all of which translate really well to this field. I approach projects with a mission critical mindset, understanding that attention to detail and rigorous standards are essential when dealing with the systems that support critical infrastructure. Additionally, the military instilled a sense of adaptability in fast-paced, evolving conditions, which is invaluable in digital infrastructure where technological advancements and client needs are constantly shifting. The future of digital infrastructure will likely center on enhanced resilience, sustainability, and adaptability to rapid advancements in technology, right? As the industry scales to support AI, Internet of Things, and these massive data flows, there will be heightened demand for robust security protocols and mission critical reliability. Veterans bring a unique perspective to this evolution. Training in discipline, risk management, and leadership under pressure makes veterans ideally suited for roles, such as cybersecurity, operations management, and strategic planning within the digital infrastructure. I firmly believe, veterans can be an integral part in shaping a resilient, secure infrastructure that adapts to the global demands as we see them. Not only because of their technical skills, but also because of the commitment to safeguarding systems that serve the broader public.
Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are live from Datacloud Global Congress in beautiful Cannes, France. And joining me today is Scott Willix. He is the VP of Sales for the EMEA region for Submer. Scott, welcome your very first time on JSA TV.
It is. Be gentle.
Yeah, honor having you here today. I mean, we're here day 2 at Datacloud Global, the 20th anniversary of this amazing conference. The floor is absolutely buzzing. It's the biggest conference for Datacloud to date. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Submer. And they also have a big anniversary coming up, a milestone of a decade, 10 years in October, which is just a few months away, believe it or not. What does your team have in store to celebrate?
Oh, well, certainly as part of the 10-year anniversary, we're going to continue our growth plan. So we've now recently just opened the R&D facility in Taiwan, which is fantastic. Doors opened for that last month. And we're, by the end of the year, the production facility in Houston should be fully on stream and online. And we've also expanded into our sales presence into the Middle East. So continuing growth is the theme for the 10th anniversary.
Okay, keep it growing for 10 years, which is a huge milestone in the industry today. To make it a decade and to continue with the strategic growth plan that Submer has. And you also have some recent news. I hear some big news that you'd like to discuss. Why don't you tell us and viewers a little bit more?
Okay. Well, we've also completed recently a rebranding exercise, and that was really to coincide with some additional pillars we've added to the Submer business structure. So initially, our first focus was all about working out the use cases for liquid cooling and developing products and ecosystem that supported its deployment. What we've now added in the recent rebranding exercise was 2 additional pillars. So we now have our design and build team, which will focus on a modular, fast to market type approach, so another string to the bow. And we'll also be looking to build our own data center and offer that as a AI as a service solution. So we're certainly morphing into more than just a manufacturer of cooling solutions. We're a much more rounded business now, so that's the way we'll be heading in the future.
The future is bright for Submer, it sounds like, especially with adding those pillars to your already existing strategic pillars of your company's plan for sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to add today or tell viewers about Submer?
Well, certainly it's the whole change of the feel in Submer at the moment. You know, it is the move towards these additional pillars, and it is a very exciting time for us. Building our own DC allows us to really showcase how you go about designing a hybrid DC and really showing people how you can deploy it and see the benefits from it. So it's a great example for us to bring customers along and show them it and show how you can really use and deploy that. There's a number of successes that we're already starting to have. So we now have POC deployments in Rome, Milan, and the UK within the last couple of months, and in Egypt and Cairo. So liquid cooling is definitely becoming a reality. It's no longer just something that people talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it was a concept, and now there's no other way.
Correct. That's the way we're going. It is a reality now.
Yeah, it is definitely a reality. Why don't you tell viewers where to go if they want to learn more about, see that rebrand, learn more about these big developments, find out about that big 10-year anniversary plan coming this fall?
Well, certainly our marketing team are in full flow at the moment, so watch this space for information on that, and customers are more than welcome to come and visit our facility in Barcelona. We've recently completed a brand new customer experience center, so customers want to come and see immersion tanks in the flesh, more than welcome to. And if they want to talk about design and build and looking at how we can do that in a fast scale way, more than happy to have those discussions with them as well.
And the website?
Yes, the website is now fully updated with the rebranding. The marketing team are extremely proud of it. So we would suggest everybody has a look at the new Submer website. Lots of new and exciting information on there.
Definitely. And that's submer.com?
Yes, submer.com.
Right. It looks great, and we're so honored to have you here today for the very first time on JSA TV. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV from Datacloud, Global Congress in Cannes, France. Happy networking. Welcome to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today is Andrew Lindsay. He is the CEO of FlexNode. Welcome back.
Having me, Buffy.
Yes, always such a pleasure here in Cannes, France, of course. No better place for Datacloud Global Congress, the 20th edition. How are you enjoying the show so far?
I can't complain with Cannes being the venue, but it's actually been a really great show. You know, I would say the mix of groups here allow for a lot of engaging meetings and frankly getting things done and deals done. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, talking about getting things done and deals done, why don't you tell viewers a little bit more about FlexNode's modular design approach and how it intersects with sustainability goals, especially when it comes to reducing construction waste and integrating renewable energy sources?
Absolutely. So at FlexNode, really our core focus being born out of the construction industry is to minimize the challenges that we've seen historically by modular data centers. We see now that the sheer demand of capacity that's happening globally requires a new approach that minimizes the workforce impact that's happening because the sheer complexity of these solutions is getting out of hand. And so what we're doing is working with a number of incredible partners to create these essentially modular Lego sets that allow for a level of configurability for our customers that they're not necessarily currently seeing with a conventional modular solution. And so for us, the big focus in that pursuit is not only just allowing for minimized risk on site, which also minimizes rework and waste, which I think we'll get into, but it also allows for us to deploy in a diverse set of locations, including where there's stranded power capacity in the grid.
Yeah, I mean, stranded power, it's critical, especially when it comes to AI workloads. And the power dilemma that we're in, right? So finding that stranded power. What types of buildings or environments has FlexNode seen the most success with adaptive reuse? And how do you evaluate a site's potential for modular deployment?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, it's that on the adaptive reuse side, the starting point really has been a driver from the supply side rather than from the demand side, in the sense that customers aren't asking us to go into a specific facility that we have to adaptively reuse. It's more that the owner or the operator of that facility wants a new use for it, and they want to be able to optimize the value for it. Historically, what we've seen is groups that actually understand the potential value for a data center going into their facility being the most interested groups these days, which is more like industrial real estate owners. But what we're starting to see creep into the picture is also commercial and life sciences real estate owners who are now starting to see from the demand side clients that are wondering how they're going to solve for these AI problems that are getting a lot more complicated at an infrastructure level than they were prepared to see.
Yeah. And how does the concept combined with FlexNode's liquid-cooled and low PUE design contribute to lowering the overall environmental footprint of data center deployments, especially in more urban areas?
Absolutely. So our focus as a liquid neutral AI native data center is really enabling a customer to have a variety of liquid cooled solutions that they can pick from, oftentimes depending on what their preferred OEM and ODM suggests that they use, but oftentimes also in consideration of the performance metrics that they're trying to meet with their sustainability goals. And so for us, where we try to lean from a PUE perspective, although we are also seeing the PUE metric getting a lot of pushback in the market for a lot of reasons that we'll get into with greener data, no doubt. But we really focus on roughly a 1.2 or less PUE efficiency. So really that 20% of cooling on top of the IT load. So that's our focus on one side. The other side, though, from a sustainability perspective, is reducing the amount of waste and rework that goes into the build of the data center. What we're seeing oftentimes is that when you have groups that are dealing with these more complex AI infrastructure builds, even if they are a highly reputable firm in the delivery of a lot of data centers historically, liquid cooling has added a level of complexity, including adding a trade to a space that didn't typically have that trade, water in the electrical space. And it's forcing this idea of how many errors are we going to make, and then how much are we going to throw out to reconcile those errors. And with FlexNode, we're really working hard to make sure you have few, if basically none, and most of those are actually ironed out off-site in one of our partners' facilities where we're manufacturing.
I mean, not to mention the embodied carbon when you're
Absolutely.
building these facilities, especially in the mass scale of these campuses that we're seeing, right?
It's a really, really great point, and I love that you brought that up, Buffy. So on the embodied carbon side, it's worth appreciating that Scope 1, Scope 2, those are much more understandable and manageable from a construction perspective. But Scope 3 is very complex from a construction perspective, be it suppliers, materials, transport routes, you name it. It's very difficult to measure your overall embodied carbon impact. And by using an offsite construction approach, you're able to iron out a lot of then the less predictable factors, as well as where you're getting your materials, your supplies to measure that embodied impact.
Yeah, I mean, everything counts. I mean, you mentioned the Greener Data chapter that you'll be writing. We're so honored to have you in Greener Data Volume 3. You want to give a little preview there?
Well, we're working on it a little bit, but the big focus for us is going to be how this new wave of AI infrastructure is actually a direct bridge between the IT world and the construction world, which is giving birth to a completely new understanding of what infrastructure looks like. And it actually offers a real opportunity for us to solve for these sustainability problems that the construction industry is seeing in real time in a much bigger way than we've seen historically in the construction industry. And I think, the speed and rate of the data center industry is going to be a driving force for that.
Well, it's such a pleasure, Andrew, to have you here
Thank you for having me.
on JSA TV once again. And we're looking forward to that chapter in Greener Data Volume 3 that's launching on Earth Day 2026. We're counting down the days for that. And again, always a pleasure. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV from Datacloud Global Congress in Cannes, France. Happy networking. JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today is Stefan Nielsen. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at Canopto. Stefan, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so this is your fourth Datacloud Global Congress.
Yeah, 2 in Monaco and now 2 in Cannes.
Yeah, and I think everyone, from what I'm hearing, is preferring Cannes, and it's the 20th anniversary.
Very much so.
of
Yeah,
Datacloud.
Cannes is much better actually. So a lovely venue, great city, nice location. So yeah, really
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Definitely. So let's talk a little bit about Canopto's Stockholm 4 South facility, which has been highlighted for its AI readiness and sustainability features. Why don't you share a little bit more about this project and how it reflects your approach to designing and building data centers?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Stockholm 4 is our biggest facility so far in Stockholm. We are a data center operator having 4 facilities in Stockholm, mainly focused on enterprise traditional colocation. Now with Stockholm 4, we had the chance to design and build something from ground up, meaning that we could also take in consideration the AI of the world. So designing a facility where we can actually do both high density AI deployments, regardless if it's air cooled or liquid cooled, and at the same time still sell the type of traditional standard retail colo. So it's in 2 floors, so designed for high density deployments on the ground floor and more traditional raised floor deployments on the upper floor. And as we are in Stockholm, sustainability is key for us. So obviously running it on 100% renewables is a key factor for us. And then on top of that, we can do innovative stuff like heat reuse to the district heating system, and also use our excess battery capacity to do grid support to the national grid and stuff like that, which has earned us a few awards actually lately. So we're very proud of the facilities.
Well, it sounds like a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge facility there.
Yeah, it's brand new, so.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out. Stockholm next.
Yeah, definitely. You're most welcome.
Thank you. I would love. I've never been. But let's talk a little bit more. I mean, you talked a lot about the sustainability and integrating the renewable energy sources. Let's dive into the heat reuse a little bit. Why don't you give viewers a little bit more about the heat reuse and how you're using that into your operations to enhance energy efficiency and support the grid at the same time?
Yeah.
Take a little bit deeper dive into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So heat reuse for us is a key strategy. We have built a strategy in Stockholm that we will not build out any new capacity if we cannot hook up that capacity to district heating, because that's one of the best ways, to be honest, for a data center operator to become a contributor to the local community instead of just consuming a lot of energy. So what we do is that we before we actually enter into an agreement to build anything or design anything, we always have the district heating owners and the municipalities with us in the discussion in terms of how we should do it, how we should design it, what type of capacity that they would like to take. So we really become an important asset for them. We're like a heat resource for them in their
community.
network. Yeah. So the people that's living around our facilities, the showering water, the heated water that they're using, it's actually coming from us.
Yeah.
So
It should be mandatory everywhere.
it should, but the thing for us is that we're lucky in terms of that we are in Stockholm, because Stockholm has one of the best built out district heating networks in Europe. It's more than 3,000 kilometers of piping, and we've been building that out for, I'm not sure, maybe hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So it's a great asset, and it's a great way for us to actually become an interesting player in the community instead of that not in my backyard syndromes that you see across the globe. We don't see that in Stockholm, to be honest.
Because you're such an important part of the community at this phase. So, well, let's talk about the increasing demand for scalable, flexible data center solutions. How are you addressing the challenges of rapid deployment and modular expansion to meet your clients' needs?
Absolutely, and that's I would say that's probably the biggest challenge or the biggest development that the industry has seen over the past maybe just 2 or 3 years, in terms of the customers now needs more capacity and they need it yesterday. A few years ago, we could have a customer signing a contract and then moving in like 6, 12, 18 months later. Not today. So that means that we as an operator need to build our facilities in a very flexible way. So we have power pods on one side, cooling pods on the other, so we can add pre-populated pods and grow as long as we grow together with the customers, which makes it much faster for us to deploy capacity. And on the battery pack, for example, we can actually also, with the grid support part, we can actually deploy more battery capacity earlier than we actually use, because we can offset that capacity and sell that back to the national grid. So we can actually monetize our investments even if we don't have customers on it, which means that we can build out capacity much faster from that perspective. And that's how we as an industry needs to do it. A lot of partnerships, a lot of close partnerships, a lot of logistical things that needs to be covered. But I think that's the way forward. Do it in modular way, do it in a flexible way, build it as you grow, and be really fast to deploy when you can.
Sounds like you're setting the pace in Stockholm.
We hope so.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else that you want to add? And please do let viewers know where they can go to learn more.
Yeah. You can go to conapto.com. We have everything on our website. And then if you see me on LinkedIn, just ping me and we can have a conversation about why you should be in Stockholm.
Yeah. And viewers, thank you for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV. Stefan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And happy networking. back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today is Evan Pike. He is a Senior Director of Global Enterprise Solutions with Carrier, all the way from West Palm Beach, Florida,
That's
one of
right.
my favorite places. But today we're in Cannes, France for Datacloud Global Congress, the 20th edition. And we're going to talk to Evan about Carrier and all that it's contributing to the world.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for having me, Buffy. Really excited. And as beautiful as West Palm Beach, Florida is,
It is.
Cannes is also incredibly beautiful.
It is. I mean, there's no better place to have a conference, global conference like this than here in Cannes on the French Riviera. Carrier is contributing to a panel here, from what I understand, about hybrid design for cooling and AI. Can you share how the company is addressing the growing energy demands of AI and maintaining sustainable operations?
Yeah, absolutely. So the panel was conducted by our executive director for global data centers, which is Christian Sanu. And we're really excited to be here. So this was Christian and my first time, but not Carrier's first time here. And if you think about Carrier, we're really the global leader in intelligent climate and energy solutions. So we love to be a part of this space. It's a fantastic opportunity for us to help solve and be part of the solution. And for us, what that means is really around trying to optimize a thermal load across the HVAC system. And for us, our solution is Quantum Leap. So Quantum Leap is really around optimizing that thermal load. If you think about our HVAC portfolio, it's really the solution that we can deliver to our data center customers around a core portfolio of air-cooled chillers and water-cooled chillers, our airside portfolio, integrated into our automated logic BMS system, tied together with our Enlight data center integrated management system to help to optimize for that thermal load. So we're incredibly excited to be offering this into the data center space. But for us, it also doesn't just stop there. Carrier, obviously a global company, and we have a global service technician footprint as well. So for us, it's not just the first time when the equipment goes in. It's really around continuing that optimization across the life cycle of our equipment and our systems. And we have thousands of technicians that are deployed globally to help with that. And I would say lastly on this question is, especially in Europe, there's a lot of regulatory demands.
There are, yeah.
So for us, what that means is making sure that we have a waste heat recovery system that's also tied to our data center solution, so we can actually utilize that waste heat recovery that might be coming from the servers, so we can sort of reduce the overall net energy impact.
Well, definitely doing important things. I'm sure you guys are so busy with everything that's happening and evolving so rapidly in our industry when it comes to more sustainable solutions and designs. I mean, as data centers continue to face these mounting pressures to reduce emissions, how is Carrier evolving its climate control and energy solutions to support operators' decarbonization goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it starts with our system design, right? To make sure that our systems are as efficient as possible, make sure that we have embodied carbon reductions as well, and making sure that we're delivering that to our customers. A lot of our customers are looking for that as part of their sustainability goals as well, and we love to be a part of that partnership with them and that solution. ALC, the building automation system, it's an energy management system for data centers, a great portfolio of offerings. We have a lot of customers there that really helps to optimize how the system runs. But I think one of the unique things about Carrier is it doesn't just stop at the data center.
Right.
So for us, especially in the US, we're in one of every 3 homes and buildings. So we play an integral role around the entire decarbonization process. And Carrier is actually partnering with utility programs as well as technology providers like Google to help provide a solution from a decarb perspective across the board. So we're really excited about that.
It does sound exciting. I mean, efficiency is no longer just about PUE either.
Yep.
How are you helping customers balance system performance with broader environmental targets?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's table stakes things like making sure that we develop our systems with low GWP requirements. Obviously, I mentioned our ALC footprint as well, but really leveraging our technology as well, right? So again, it's not just about that first system installation. It's really around continuing to optimize the system and making sure that it's running at the performance that it needs to. So for us, that means that we leverage our Abound predictive maintenance program and offering to make sure that the maintenance of the system and that the operational efficiency is continuing to be there as it was designed, as well as leveraging a digital twin to continue to make sure that the optimization of that system across the life of the equipment continues to be there.
Yeah, I mean, the digital twin is really the path forward in our industry today.
It really is. It really is. So I think, if you take a step back, I think that quantum leap solution that we have really addresses the sustainability goals, but it doesn't impact our performance either, right? So we're able to balance the two as we offer that integrated solution.
Yeah, so where can viewers go if they want to learn more about Carrier's leading edge solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Google is our friend, right? So a quick Google search on Carrier data centers, right at the top of the page, you'll be able to see that. If you would like to connect with me personally, LinkedIn, Evan Pike, would love to connect with you all and talk further.
Evan, thank you so much for joining us and
thank
giving
you.
your insights about Carrier and what you've gained off that panel that was here today at Datacloud Global Congress. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV. Happy networking. Welcome to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today we have Jeff Ferry. He is a board member at ELIA Data Centers. Jeff, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It feels like a continuation from our last interview at ITW.
It does,
so,
yeah.
Appreciate it. It's always great to be on stage with you guys and to talk about what's going on in ELIA.
Yeah, from National Harbor to Cannes,
Yeah.
here for Datacloud Global Congress, the 20th edition of Datacloud Global. Such a big milestone for them, but let's talk more about ELIA and your big milestone and exciting news about the Rio AI City and its 1.5 gigawatt investment there in Brazil over the next decade. Can you tell us more about this initiative and what it means for the future of AI in this emerging region?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So literally when we were at ITW talking about ELIA and talking about sustainability, Alessandro, our CEO, was in the West Coast with the mayor of Rio, with the finance minister, with a lot of folks from Brazil, visiting with a lot of with NVIDIA, with a lot of the hyperscale cloud people, and launching and discussing this AI city. So it's been a great partnership with and agreements with the city of Rio, the mayor and the staff and the group of really helping put all this together and helping develop Rio as a primary city, right? As well as partnership with Electrobras and the team there, and kind of allocating and helping, knowing that there's going to be power there. So it's not just an announcement of hopefully someday being at a gigawatt. Right. We have available power today, and now we're just executing and need to kind of then plan and produce and just execute on the plan. So it's very exciting times at ELIA.
It is very exciting times. I mean, talking about Rio,
yep.
Another beautiful destination,
yes.
by the way. What makes it an ideal location for the development of Rio AI City, and how will that location shape the project over time?
Yeah, so the starting point is, as I mentioned, this partnership and the cooperation and the vision of the mayor of Rio, of the Rio City, of the other components of electricity, of helping bring it all together, as well as obviously our CEO with Alessandro living there, headquarters is there, really trying to focus on, Rio being an AI city, a destination point, and development around it. It's not just the AI city, it's development of the port and kind of a reestablishment of Rio. One of the key points is that there is a substation, a subsea cable landing station there. So you have connectivity, from Rio up to the Fortaleza, from Rio to, Miami, and to the Americas, to Europe, to Africa. So it has, key, kind of connection points there in Rio that help establish it, why it makes sense to, as well as the support of the government. The other thing with and we've talked about this before with ELIA, with Brazil, is the amount of available power. It's all, it's 95% green power, right? There's available power in the grid already. It's already produced. And so it checks all the boxes of why would you go to, Brazil? Why would you go to Rio? As part of that, working with not only the local government, but the national government and the finance minister, they recently announced an AI initiative and a compute initiative to relieve some of the import duties on compute equipment. So what was normally or formerly maybe a 40% tax on some of the import of some of this equipment, that's been relieved. And so it makes the project that much more palatable from an outside standpoint of bringing GPUs in. So the work with NVIDIA, the work with the hyperscalers, it's it's been a lot of conversations, a lot of development that, Alessandro, Julia, our other board member, working with the government, working on just educating them of the importance of having this AI city. It's a lot of work, but it's good to see the results of the work, right, coming together. So
a lot of work, but much needed work,
yes,
right? To enable AI and all of its capabilities in that emerging region. And ELIA is also known for its sustainability focused mission, obviously. How will that fit into your vision for Rio AI City?
We don't have pictures of it, but I wish we did. It's like the design, is supposed to capture kind of the Rio history of like being, more, the jungle, the forest. So it's very green, green skin, on the, to reduce the temperatures to, hold, to really develop, like an engineering. So like from the beginning, right, engineering and designing it, from a sustainability standpoint, being focused on water usage, right, and as well as PUE. So everything, like when you can, the best thing about it is like when you start it, when you create it, you can kind of start with that in mind and then design around, like making sure it's most efficient as possible, with scarce resources, right? Like with water, with, kind of how you cool it, how you develop it. So, Ben, like Brazil's always been that way, right? It's like, with the fact that it's like, 95% carbon free power, it has a lot of resources, and that's the benefit, I think, of like being there and being able to work with them. So it's, as you can tell, it's a lot of fun working with the group, and they're just great people. It's a great company.
They really
Brazil,
are. We were
talking
just
about
chatting
before.
about it,
and and we're like, we're focused, right? We're only in Brazil. People ask, "Hey, do you expand?" It's like there's a lot to do, and as you can tell, like just even the AI city, right? And so I think that focus helps. Not only the culture of the company. We're Brazil. We have local investors with Brazil. Work with the local governments, the national governments, to be able to kind of like promote Brazil more than promote the company. So that's it. It's look forward to it. Have a lot of like work to be done, right? Because when you announce a project like this, then you gotta follow up and you gotta do it. So like
putting
we got a lot
Brazil
of work.
on the AI data center map for sure. And where can viewers go if they want to see those pictures? And
The
learn more?
website for Alea Digital, for Alea Data Centers, I think is probably the place to go. I think some of them are on there. If they're not, we're gonna have to put them on there because I just committed to it. So we'll have some of this on, and I think some of it has been also posted to LinkedIn and some of the announcements of like, because not only did we announce it, but the mayor of Rio, the finance minister. So like there was a really, really productive meetings when they went to the West Coast. Like when we were at ITW, they were actually, that's why Alessandro couldn't go there. So a lot of work's gone into it. So like it's good to see some of the results.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear all these exciting developments. This is the last time we spoke in Rio for Rio AI City. And thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of JSA TV. Thanks for all that you're doing to put Rio on the map and all of the sustainability initiatives that Alea Digital is doing. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV live from Datacloud Global Congress here in Cannes, France. Happy networking. JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today is Alini Oslef. She is the Director of Total Data Center Solutions. Alini, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate it. We're based in Oslo. Now, TDCS has been in the industry for 21 years, providing a lot of services. And luckily, in the past 2 years, I've been selecting some sites all over Scandinavia, and now it has expanded globally.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yes.
think everyone's expanding globally, especially with the rise in AI and the need for more data centers.
Yes.
I understand that you're helping clients with sourcing power and land.
Correct.
Tell a little bit more about that.
So basically, the client comes to us and we see the feasibility of these lands, and we see mainly the time frame of the power, because if the power takes over 24 months, that's unattractive. And we've been helping the client to not only invest but also operate, and sometimes vice versa. They don't want to operate. And then I put the pieces together, mainly in Scandinavia, but also now even in Brazil and United States, and we're quite happy in helping the clients in this way.
Yeah, I mean, speed to power is everything. So
Everything, exactly.
It's so important to have a partner like Total Data Center Solutions helping in that decision. Could you tell us about any industry trends that you're seeing, particularly related to AI?
Yes, what we've seen is that the main capital cities these days are overcrowded. And now for AI, the deployments are being shifted to outside the cities in remote areas. So I can tell that we have a selection of lands in Finland where it's really remote, but quite appealing for such deployments. And even the latency does not matter these days for the AI. So that's a trend. And the second trend that I have seen is that renewable source energies have been combining with us and mainly wanted to provide what they have and their project. And that's great. So we see them merge now more and more. We're seeing getting greenfields with ILD in RTB stage, which is ready to build. And we're combining that for the data center investors and operators. And that's great because it gives us leverage to not only we have land for data centers, but we also have land for renewable source like PV, solar, wind, even hydro. Sometimes we get those opportunities. So yes.
Definitely. And where can viewers go if they want to learn more about Total Data Center Solutions?
If they want to go, they can check our website. And I'm based in Oslo. Jonathan Evans, which is the pioneer at Total Data Center Solutions, he's based in London. And you can simply tell us what's the need in sourcing and globally, and we'll be happy to help the client.
And what is the website?
Website is www.totaldatacenter with RE solutions.com.
Alini, thank you so much for joining us on JSA
Thank
TV.
you so much.
And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode here from Datacloud Global Congress in Cannes, France. Happy networking. Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and we are live at Datacloud Global Congress in beautiful Cannes, France, on the French Riviera for the 20th anniversary of this absolutely amazing conference. Wouldn't you say, fellas?
Oh, brilliant. So good to be here.
Yeah, and I have two very special guests from the Nordic data center market. Gentlemen, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and your position?
My name is Christian Ekberg. I'm coming from BW Velora. I'm located out of Oslo. We are operating in the Nordics and Canada.
All right, so I'm Håkon Irgens, representing 5 Nines. So we're located in Oslo, and we're an EPC constructor, general constructor in Norway and the Nordics.
So why don't we head back to you here? Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what your company does, what your specialties are?
We are a DC developer company, and that means that we, with local knowledge about land rules, regulations, and permitting, we have now agreements to take 4 lands so far in Scandinavia. All lands have power access up to 300 megawatt, and the target is to build data centers on them. There is several reasons why we think Nordics is popular. First of all, we see that several large data centers are currently under construction here. There is a reason, and that's the climate. It's a cold climate during most of the winter, and it's colder climate also during the summer, so the cooling demand is significantly less. In addition, we have a lot of space, and we have power. We have a lot of hydrogen power. Very recently, a lot of hydrogen and ammonia plants that has been planned for years in Norway has been cancelled. So the state-owned power company has now taken away 20 terawatt in the power queue, leaving that available for the data industry. So there is challenges to get power, so it's not that simple, but it's much easier now, and it's available power, and it's green.
Available green power is key.
It is.
To everything that the data center industry needs to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that the two companies are partnered. Why don't you tell us a little bit more?
So what 5 Nine does is we take it from Reba stage 3 until turnkey delivery for the operators. And there's a few well-known operator companies in Norway, so we collaborate with them, of course. And then we also see that there's a time to market now, and there's not that many suppliers in Nordic, so we think that's a good opportunity to be there. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about the Nordic data center market, we're hearing more and more about it over the last few years. What are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing in that market?
What we see is that the size of everything goes rapidly up. We had some years back a data center with 2-3 megawatt was a significant investment.
Now it's small.
Today, still, we have quite small. The second largest, which is under construction now, is on 90 megawatt. But we have a mega data center from a hyperscaler, which will be at the final stage up to 800 megawatt. So what we see now is that everything increases rapidly, and it becomes larger and larger. And we think that the fiber cable, that is easy to pull a fiber from the Nordics and down to Central Europe could be quite a simple thing compared to moving all the electricity down to Europe. So that's maybe the largest trend that we see, that Scandinavia is with well connectivity and action.
And as Otto from Google on the opening speech yesterday said, that he he sees the data centers moving from the center in the flat Ps out where it's powered land. So power is the most critical, and everything else can
And
be
the
worked
climate,
out.
right?
And the climate.
I mean, the
of
climate
course.
is key.
Yeah, and we have green power and we have surplus. So at least for a while, Norway is it's a strategic land to build in. Yeah.
Sounds that Nordics is where it's at when it
It
comes
is.
to the data center design and development, for sure. So you mentioned one of the panels and some of the takeaways there. Any other takeaways that you wanted to highlight from the conference today?
I think that we have seen a lot and learned a lot on this conference. But the largest takeaway for me is probably just a confirmation about what we have already knew. But now we got the words direct from executives in
Top
both
leaders, yeah.
Microsoft, Google, and Oracle. And everyone is saying that we will invest so much and we can't really manage to invest as fast as we're trying to do in Europe. And in addition, they also talk about this. They see that the new very large scale centers, they can be more remotely located. And we think that is also very beneficial for us.
It is, particularly they can be more remote located. They don't have to be so close to the end user, and they can take advantage of unused stranded power.
So you will always have those who need the short latency, but
Of course, right? But for the AI,
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No.
So we could see it in the Nordics. We could see it in North Dakota in the U.S.
Right.
And we're hearing about these stories over and over again. We've heard several here at the conference. Anything else you wanted to add, gentlemen?
Just that this is such an exciting time, and we need to work together, everyone, to be able to deliver on time. Time is critical.
Time is critical, and collaboration is key, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Thank you for letting us come to this interview.
Of course. It was our pleasure to have you all the way from the Nordics here on JSA TV, live from Datacloud Global Congress, the 20th edition, one of the biggest and best shows in the world. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV, and happy networking. Welcome back to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest stories, trends, and innovations from leaders in digital infrastructure. I'm Buffy Harakitis of JSA, and joining me today for the final interview of our Datacloud Global Congress 2025, the 20th edition of Datacloud Global Congress episode, we have Mike Jauncey, saving the best for last, the Channel and Alliances Director for the EMEA region for Megaport. Welcome, Mike.
No, absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. First of all, why don't we just dive right into your role? What does the Channel and Alliances role entail here at Megaport?
Yeah, so we're actually really blessed with Channel Alliances with Megaport here in Europe. We get to cover quite a broad range of how we interact with the market. So we break it down really into three main areas. We have our data center operators, which we have across all of the markets that we're in. And this is where our network lives. So we have those relationships to maintain, take care of, and grow together. And then we move across to the channel, which is our routes to market. Okay, so all of our resellers, we'll talk about telcos, MSPs, service providers, etc. And then lastly, our alliances. So that's the likes of an AWS or a Microsoft, and then through to Cisco, Fortinet, Palo Alto. So we've got really a lot to cover. Quite a broad team that we've got in Europe, so it keeps us on our toes, keeps us busy, keeps us getting about.
I mean, especially with the growth of data centers globally, I'm sure that they're keeping you on your toes. So why don't you talk a little bit more about some of the conversations that you're having with these partners here? I mean, we're hearing so much about the data center growth, and I'm sure it's impacting the conversations that you're having. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit more about these conversations that are happening here live at Datacloud?
You're absolutely right. Literally every single conversation. So we're looking at this event to have spoken to many of our existing partners, but also lots of new ones here. So it's been a super great event. Our existing partners are telling us new buildings, new power requirements, new markets, everything is more of expansion. You know, this grab for power, etc. And what's really encouraging is they want Megaport to go on this journey with them so we can extend our network and serve the customers, and it's the same trend with all of the new prospects that we've got as well. It's all around where next. What's the next workload that's going to dictate the size of the site? Where's it going to be? How can we place it? Can Megaport come along with us? And extend that for our customers. So it's super encouraging, and I think it's probably the most exciting time to be in this industry for a long, long time.
It definitely is the most exciting time ever, especially after decades in the industry, to see such explosive growth, such quick growth, and the need for more and more talent and space and power just combined. We're just continuing to grow as we go. Not just AI, but what's next with quantum computing, and of course your partners want to take Megaport along with them because you're such a household renowned, world renowned name in our industry. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think it's just, for me, it's just the encouragement in the growth. And we know that lots of our customers are on their third, fourth, fifth different iteration of where their infrastructure lives around the world. So more and more of this is placing the infrastructure in the right place, which the operators are reacting to with the new sites. And then on the flip side of that, you've got the providers coming in, and then with whatever next in the wave. So it could be infrastructure to suit the needs of AI, model training, inferencing, whatever comes next, etc. And there's really a nice conversation to be had with all of that ecosystem because we play quite a nice role in the middle of it all. So yeah, it's been fantastic, and long may it continue. Our CEO recently said, a mantra of more on the Megaport network. So we're happy to go with it.
I love that mantra, more.
More,
and that's what
more.
we're seeing day in and out. And like you said, Megaport is such an important part of our ecosystem. And I'm sure many operators are happy to take you along with them, according to all of your channel and alliances partners, of course, here at Datacloud and globally. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to another episode of JSA TV live from Datacloud 2025. Happy networking.